Another week of SEC basketball. Our group is definitely excited to get back on the court. I think when you look at the overall competition, you have a lot of great teams that are playing well. At the end of the day, one team has to win, one team has to lose. So that does not mean that teams are not doing great or doing the things that they need to do. We're thankful to be on our side. And again, our fans have done a great job throughout this season, and we want to continue to trend in the right direction.
Dennis, you had told us a couple weeks ago you didn't think your team was playing all that well. I'm curious if you have any different opinion about the effort they put forth on Saturday.
The ceiling of our team has not been reached yet. I truly believe that there's another level or two that we can go to. I've mentioned it before in the past, and sometimes you guys think I'm just making statements, but I really do mean that because I base it off the potential that I see every day in practice, but also the group of men that we have in our locker room. They've done a tremendous job over their careers, but also in this short time since June of our gathering where we started working on team building. So when it comes down to our potential, we have not yet reached it.
And so, Coach, what do you see as kind of the next steps to get closer to that ceiling for you guys?
The next steps to get there, I think when you look at it, there's multiple things, but making sure that we're showing up from an emotional, mental, and physical standpoint to each and every game, no matter the environment. The other part of it is making sure all cylinders are clicking. We've yet to play a game where every single person is playing, um, up to their potential, and that's what I gauge it off of.
Hey, Coach, you're right about the midway point of this SEC gauntlet. How has this league made you better? And then when you look ahead to the second half, what does your team need to do to continue to be successful in this tough of a conference?
Well, there's a lot of great coaches in this conference. There's a lot of great players. You have no choice when we began the SEC season to look at the top 16 strength of schedules remaining. It was in order all SEC teams. So when you have that type of scheduling, you have no choice but to get better because these situations that come up, end of game, close games, end of halves, and also the environments, they allow that to take place. Again, players are going to continue to play, coaches are going to coach. And I think the combination of all that in one conference allows us to continue to improve each other by way of sharpening each other's blades, so to speak. There's different styles of play that exist in our conference. And I just think every staff, every coach, every single player, by product of that, will get better because everyone's going out giving their very best. What was the other half of your question?
What, as you look at the league in the second half,
Yeah.
not just survive, but to thrive in this conference, what's your message to your team about accomplishing that?
Well, the message is simple. Just take one game at a time, which is what we've always done. We're in February, and ultimately, the next month after that is the madness, right? But everything that you do in these next 4 weeks will have some type of ramification or even a justification of what's next. The only thing that's next after our full not or our full schedule of our conference play is conference tournament. That's the first part of postseason play. After that is postseason when it comes down to tournament time. And I think our guys have done a good job staying in the moment. Don't look too far behind nor too far ahead of yourselves. And our fans have done the same thing. I think our growth, we're growing at a pace that I think is prepared for, but our players aren't surprised at the pace that we've grown at because ultimately when we start the season, you can sometimes watch non-conference games and ask yourself, why is it that this team is getting this notoriety or that notoriety? Is someone overlooking us? And I just made sure our guys are staying in the moment and have stayed in the moment and just focused on their own growth and running their own race. And at the right time, those things will start to show because the opportunities will come.
Coach, with this Tennessee matchup, what's the challenge of getting free throws and getting to the line consistently against a team that just doesn't foul all that much?
Well, Rick Barnes is a great coach, Hall of Fame coach, obviously, one of his better teams. No different than majority of our opponents. Last season for Tennessee ended prematurely for them. I thought they had a national championship team, leave no doubt about it, and they still have a great team. They've been at number one in the country by the coaches poll and AP poll. They've been top five, consistently. And that's the barometer when you look at where they have been respected. They have great players, top to bottom. That doesn't mean they don't foul. They just do a great job of doing the things that they do well. They are number one in rim protection. They're number one in a lot of categories defensively, and they're going to do a great job. That environment is going to be a tough environment to play in, and it's my job to get our guys prepared.
Coach, and Tennessee's coming off a bounce back win after a few games of losses. And in that win, two of their better players, Zakai and Igor, did not play. And Zakai basically confirmed earlier today that he will be playing against you guys. So, what's it like trying to game plan for a team that can have those guys that can just come out and have good performances when some of the stars are hurt?
Well, we don't worry about other teams when it comes to who's not going to play. We assume everybody's going to play regardless of their injury, regardless of what's going on. We always prepare our guys, regardless of an injury, that this is their rotation, this is their team. And when you decide to not play, sometimes that's a game time decision, sometimes it's the day before. But our players, as soon as we start our scouting report, we're at 100% participation when it comes to our opponents, who's going to play. Um, Now, how many minutes people play? Sometimes it's 0, sometimes it's 30, sometimes it's 40. That's where we end up in game adjusting or game planning at halftime or whatever's needed. They have depth, they have veterans, they have experience. At this stretch, again, this is an important stretch, but the big picture, like you guys mentioned, teams are going to have to start making decisions as it relates to who's playing, when they're going to play because of health, but also they don't want to put their guys in any kind of situation that compromises their entire team. I hope and pray everyone is healthy and remain healthy because ultimately postseason play, we're all on the same team when it comes to representing the SEC conference, and we want to see everybody successful. So for me, I want our guys to continue to focus on what they need to focus on, and that's everybody on that roster who has played. We're assuming that they're playing.
Coach, really, ever since you've been here at Mizzou, you've emphasized giving your guys the green light in terms of shooting, and how you'd actually be pretty upset if they didn't take an open shot. How do you think that mentality's helped them this season?
I think confidence wise, it helps. Confidence is something that a coach can instill in his players, but also confidence is something that players instill in each other because you have to remain comfortable in taking those risks and whatever risk that they are. I just want our guys to quote unquote play where they and have seen their success. And I think ultimately I'm just here to reinforce and encourage. At the end of the day, every player knows their strengths and weaknesses, and they want to do more things that are on the strength side than weak side, right? So for me, I have to continue to encourage and discourage guys from second guessing themselves. And that's what I kind of mentally prepare our guys for. They know my expectation offensively and defensively. So I want them to play confident defensively. I want them to play confident offensively. And ultimately we'll put them in the right positions, right places. And I just need their very best at all times. And we're going to execute the game plan, whatever that may be, and be prepared to adjust on any kind of situation, especially on the road. You can get in foul trouble. You have to understand the sensitivity of the whistle in certain situations. You have to overcome the flow of the game. A referee's job isn't to call every foul, but to take care of the integrity of the game and make sure it flows correctly. And it's a physical sport. Our league is very physical. And ultimately, we're playing one of the most physical teams in the country.
Time for one last question.
Dennis, you've talked a lot about going 15 deep and using every guy. How valuable was it on Saturday to get guys like Honor and Peyton and maybe guys that haven't seen as many minutes lately a chance in an SEC game, and how can that pay off for you down the road?
Well, I think at the end of the day, our experience and our depth allows that to take place, but also those guys have settled in to roles, but they're not satisfied with not playing. I don't want them to be satisfied with not playing. I want them to sit on the edge of their seat. Every time I look at the bench, I want them the guys to be prepared to look at me back just in case I need them to be prepared to go in. They follow the game plans, they follow the game. They're practicing and giving their very best every day. And I just think part of their development right now is in this position. And it's not a position that's easy to be in, but it's a position that sometimes is needed, and that will impact the growth. This isn't where everybody just get participation minutes. I think our guys have earned consistently the minutes that they've gotten at different phases, and I'm excited to see which one of these young kids step up in addition to our veterans. I want to see Marquez Ward step up. I want to see Jacob Cruz continue to step up, and I want to see our freshmen continue to step up. It's a long season. February is a long month, and a lot of teams are going to be in a position where they either have to make decisions about how many minutes people play and how many minutes they don't, and even when injuries come down the pipe, how they're going to play. But the games are going to take place, and we just got to be prepared when our numbers call, and that's the mentality that I've instilled in our guys.